In the last episode, we talked about how Chinese calligraphy works, its history, and how it's practiced. So if you haven't seen that video, please click right here to watch. In this episode, we're going to talk about the materials that are used in Chinese calligraphy and the history behind them. The four essential elements of Chinese calligraphy are the brush, the ink stick, the ink stone, and the paper. These items are known in Chinese tradition as the four treasures of knowledge. Because, well, the idea is that when you learn how to write, you become literate, which in turn then you can learn how to obtain and pass on knowledge. So the brush tip is usually made of animal hair, such as rabbit, wolf, or goat, inserted into a hollow bamboo tube. The tip is shaped to come to a point at the top so that it can make sharp thin lines when held upright and wider lines when tilted to its side. Like all brushes, the brush comes in different sizes depending on the shape and the size that you want your brush strokes to be. So the ink stick is where the ink comes from. It's made from pine soot that comes from the inner core of a tree mixed with a binding agent such as animal glue. To be used, it needs to be ground with water against the next item, the ink stone, until it reaches the right consistency. In fact, grinding the ink was an art in itself that apprentices of calligraphy had to master before they could continue to develop their skill in writing. So how do you know it's at the right consistency?
You can feel the fluid, if it's too thick or too thin. I can try. I think it's still too thin. Too thin.
The quality of the stone is also important, and it needs to have a fine grain in order to produce the best ink quality. Over time, ink stones have actually also become a treasured and collectible work of art in themselves, since they would usually be made of very high quality stones and also be carved or decorated in very beautiful and elaborate ways. Nowadays, you can also buy pre-ground and pre-mixed ink that comes in bottles, but the quality of it is significantly lower than the ink that comes from rubbing ink sticks. Bottled ink would usually be used as student-grade ink for people who are just learning how to do calligraphy. And finally, we have the paper, a historic Chinese invention, by the way, that was invented in the Han Dynasty in around 100 BCE and became widely used in China in around 100 CE. Prior to the invention of the paper, people carved into stone and ivory as well as wrote on bamboo and silk. But the Han Dynasty was a very bureaucratic dynasty, and they needed a lighter, cheaper, and more efficient way to keep records. I mean, my filing cabinet would be full in no time if I wrote on stone tablets. And therefore, paper to the rescue. Its early types would have been tree bark mixed with things like hemp, pressed flat and left out in the sun to dry. Calligraphers used a special type of paper called xuanzhi, also known as rice paper, made of a particular species of elm mixed with rice. The paper also comes in different types that have different absorption rates, creating different types of brushstroke qualities. In addition to these four treasures, some calligraphers also sometimes use paperweights, which are also often carved and decorated pieces of stones and wooden blocks, and it can also sometimes be collectible works of art just like the inkstones. As I mentioned in the previous episode, artists would stamp their works with their personalized seals. The practice of sealing in China dates back to as early as 544 BCE. The seal is used by people and organizations to effectively act as a verifiable signature. It is also common for the owners of the art and calligraphy to seal the works in addition to the artist. Some works that have passed through multiple owners over the years may have dozens of red seals all over them. A seal could be made of stone, ivory, wood, or jade, and is dipped in a red paste made of cinnabar with water mixed with honey or oil. And similar to other calligraphy materials, seals could also be beautiful works of art in themselves. The character design of the stamped part could come in many unique forms and styles, and the stamped body is also often elaborately carved. So do you have any favorite calligraphy styles or calligraphy artists, whether they're Eastern or Western, whichever the language? Let me know in the comments. A seal could be made of stone, ivory, wood, or jade, and is dipped in a red paste made of, I don't